Hello and welcome everyone to another round of the Virtual Drift Championship. This is round 3 at Pascani MotorPark. My name is Craig. With me as always is Tanner. What's up, Tanner?
Oh, it's going good, Craig. Good to be back for another round here. And what a track. This thing is exciting. I couldn't keep my eyes off of it while watching these guys do practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Track made by 00 over there on the infamous race department. Absolute GOAT when it comes to these fictional fantasy tracks that he's put together. And we're using one today at Pascani MotorPark. Let's take a look at that line map. You see the start of the course there at the top of the screen. Go through the chicane and off you go for around 100-mile-an-hour entry. Teeny tiny little decel zone to protect that lead driver, and then on throttle and all the way on throttle all the way through this course, all the way really until clip 8. There is a small little portion there, almost hard to see there just before clip 8, a small tiny little off throttle spot there, and then it is quite the decel into clip 10, a really difficult one to do there. Real easy to drop tire coming into clip 10, and then there's a wall right off the track edge there. Drivers aren't necessarily meant to run the wall itself. The wall was placed there to give some reference, and there's quite the drop off at clip 10 as well. If you've seen any of the drivers' social media clips, it's quite an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, huge turn for turn 1 down into clip 4. Just stay on throttle. That first transition, drivers are doing it at around 90 to 98 miles an hour, and really holding anywhere from 75 to 80 all the way through this course. Probably the fastest track I think we may have ever had. Riga is really close as well. It does remind me a little bit of Riga, just scaled way up. So a little bit different from what we've already done this season so far.
It definitely is, but I think it's going to be, maybe this is the track that throws the drivers off.
Yeah, maybe it was a little split amongst the drivers too, regarding feedback and how they liked it. Some drivers really like it. Some drivers, didn't really care for it, but it's all preference at the end of the day. But should be extremely exciting. That first turn as well is, as we can see here, has some banking to it, so you really pick up grip as you go higher up into that second outside zone. We see drivers going around now, but full commitment. And really, I think another interesting bit too, the track is so large that you can really only get away with so much grip dialed into your car. I was finding myself most of the time having to pull grip out of the car in order to keep it smooth throughout that course. But yeah, a little something different, and it looks like we have our first driver coming up to the line, ready to go, and it's Daniel Mora. We'll watch those lights. Lights turn blue, and he is off for the first run of round 3 here at Pascani MotorPark by 00. And entering in, Daniel Mora pulls out a little bit of angle there, but keeping things going all the way up to that edge of the track, down for the inside clip, picking up that third hash. Really nicely done so far from Daniel. Right along that edge there. And look at this, full commitment. And into that last outside zone, keeping things going. Daniel Mora starting things off for us here at round 3.
Yeah, Daniel Mora, I was actually just watching him in practice there, and every single time he hit that wall. So it was great to see in the qualifying run, he managed to figure out what mistake he was making and actually get some decent points on the board. And kicking us off with an 87.7 for Daniel Mora. Next up is Robert Kavinsky in the BMW. We'll see how Robert gets down on this super long track, but super fun. Initiates in, touching the dirt just a little bit with that outside tire, but holding a good arc around that second outside zone. through the inside clip, and down he comes through this little power alley section. Looking really good here. Not a lot of adjustments happening in the wheel, just keeping it dialed, putting the car where it needs to be, dropping some tire though, coming into clip 10, but catching his mistake quickly. Shouldn't hurt him too bad there.
Yeah, still really well done. A little bit tighter to that first inside clip than Daniel Moore was, but we did see, little small tire drops, especially coming into that outside zone 10 or clip 10. A tough one to get right. Really got to almost slow down your transition coming into it. It seems like if you snap real hard, you'll end up with maybe a little bit too much angle, which brings out that rear tire to drop just a little bit along that edge. 86.3 on the board for Robert, though, and we're moving on. Eduardo Alves through the chicane. Off he goes. Entering in a little late there, you see, getting to the outside a little early. All the way up there. See a little puff of dirt. Continuing on into this power alley section. A little slow on the transition, but keeping things going on the correct line. A little deep there. Last and final transition, and he nails it. Look at there, continuing on and across that finish line.
Eduardo there putting on a pretty decent run. Couple little tiny mistakes that he can clean up for the next one, but that still nets him an 89. So 89 points there for Eduardo Alves. As we move on to our next driver, and one of the few still left in the Corvette, the wonderful card is Luciano Canero. We'll see what they can do in the Corvette. Initiates in. Good angle off the initiation, trying to just get all the way up there. Fills the second zone, grabs that inside clip. Making his way through, nicely keeping it on the track edge. Nice little puff there. Luciano doing a very good job here. He is on fire. Well, at least his front rotors are on my screen as he comes through that finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well done from Luciano there. Switch motors this season. Previously had a 4-rotor in that Corvette. Now 2J and an 87 on the board for Luciano. A lot of 80s so far. And here's Christian Petrov for his first run of the day. Entering in nicely. Really laying on that left foot brake though through turn 1 into outside zone 2, but tight to the inside clip. Small, teeny tiny little wavers through that turn. Picking up that outside zone. Really smooth on these transitions from Christian Petrov's last and final one here, and he's going to come up just a little short and then work that car back out to the track edge and across that line.
Yeah, good drive there from Christian. And again, this track is one of those ones where it's hard to hide things. So the drivers really just got to make sure it's dialed and the run is dialed. And that's why I think we're seeing these early 80s is, maybe on their second runs, we'll start to get into those 90s. But we have Carlos Diogo going for his first run, as the track's just so long and big that, the smaller little things are what the judges are looking for, as we see Carlos there wavering to outer zone 2. And, those are the little things that I'm talking about that maybe might be a little more hidden on the shorter tracks, but now with this long track, they're starting to show. And whoa, dropping 2 tires, trying to hold it together. Carlos not able to finish the run, and sadly gets a 0 the first time out.
Yeah, an unfortunate one to see there. Just quite late on that transition in the middle of that power alley section. Sent him off too wide, late for that outside zone and off the track, but he's got another run to go. Oliver Eppinger up now through that chicane, back in the Supra. He's been using it for several seasons now, and looking good here in turn 1. A little shallow on outside zone 2, but smooth overall through turn 1. Comes down into outside zone 3 and 4. Laying on it here, as he should. Last and final transition and zone. Down off the little drop. And nicely done from Oliver Eppinger.
Yeah, Oliver with a couple zones that he could have been a little more deeper in, but I mean, it was a solid run there. And again, yeah, you're right. It's been that Supra for years. He knows the car, and the car shows for it. 91.7. The first driver into the 90s today is Oliver Eppinger. So we have Jordan El Nasser at the line. We'll see what kind of run Jordan can lay down. Still rocking the Viper. Initiates in. Looking okay so far, a little wobbly. Trying to dance it to the inside clip there, trying to get as close as he can. Makes his transitions through that section. Holding it together quite nicely here, though. I know he was telling me he was very limited on practice for this round, so I think he'll be happy with any kind of points on the board as he does finish out his run.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of the best ones we've seen from Jordan. He did sort of over-rotate coming into that last and final outside zone, but he held it together, kept things going. So we should see a score on the board here in just a second. And an 83 for Jordan El Nasser. We're quickly on to Masashi Yoshida, returning in this E46 estate and looking good. Nice line up to outside zone 2. And across that inside clip. Looking dialed in here. And just flying through this course here. Filling those outside zones. Nicely done for that last outside zone as well. And across that finish line, Masashi Yoshida.
Wow. Yoshida just not letting off that throttle whatsoever. He left it buried and was like, well, we're going to see how it worked. And it worked pretty well. Masashi Yoshida there with a 90 for the first run. As we move on to the last of the first runs here, Stanislav Tarasov in the Ferrari. Down the straight, initiates in. Looking good off the initiation as he makes his way up to outer zone 2. Nicely done, grabbing that track edge, not kicking up any dirt as he starts making his way back down and around these next few outer zones. Very dialed in, looking good out there. Makes the final transition, puts it right on that yellow line, takes the bump like a champ, and yeah, solid run there from Stanislav.
Yeah, another run nicely done from these drivers. Very small note to that would really just be that last and final outside zone. He picked up throttle in time, but did still, continue to drop speed through there and continue on. But 91.3, the rest of the run was dialed. Daniel Mora up for his second run, and we've got our top 8 so far. Entering in, nicely done again. Using a lot of left foot brake though as Daniel working up to outside zone 2, still using it there just before that inside clip into the power alley section. Small, tiny little tire drop there. And really well done into the last and final outside zone. There he goes across that finish line for run 2.
Yeah, Daniel getting a little more brave on the second run there. Hopefully that's enough to improve on his 87, and it is an 88.3. So moving up just a little bit there and sitting on an 86.3. Robert Kavinsky here in the BMW going out for their second run. Initiating in. Looking good off the initiation as he drives towards outer zone 2, right up to that track edge. Now to drop it down, grab that inside clip, looking good. Drops some tire there though around that outer zone 3, makes the transition stick. Been a bit deeper in that last outer zone, but makes his way through the next 2 clean into the final outer zone. Yeah, looked really good. Good job there from Robert Kavinsky on that second run.
Yeah, dialed in for sure. Super smooth. Look at there, 94.3 on the board for Robert, and that puts him in that number 1 position. Eduardo Alves up next, sitting on that 89. 5th here in Group 1. If he can better that here with run 2 again, initiating a little late. Drivers need to be initiating before that yellow line, not the zone. But doing good through the rest of the course here into this power alley section, filling that outside zone 4 and 5. A good final transition, but he's going to drive out of that zone, work back out to it, and across that finish line.
Eduardo looked like he was putting on a good run there and then just had that big mistake at the very end, and that is going to cost him only getting an 84 on the second run. As we move over to our next driver, Luciano Canero, sitting on an 87 and looking to improve, as we've already seen, you know, the 91.3 on the board and the 91.7. So we'll see if Luciano can get up there and maybe join these guys in the 90 club. Initiates in, could have been a bit higher into outer zone 2 with a better line, but makes it work down to that inside clip for this next 2 transitions. Looking good. Luciano putting it right out to that track edge, holding it together. How does he do into the final outer zone? Well, he does pretty well, Luciano.
Yeah, looking good once again in that Corvette. Had an 87 for run 1. And now a 90 for run 2. That'll move him up a few positions. And Christian Petrov, 88.3 for his first run. Currently tied there with Daniel Mora. And a good initiation from Petrov does work out a bit wide, a little early, down to the inside clip. Okay, adding angle there for outside zone 3. A little wavery here and there. But filling these zones. And nicely done for the last and final outside zone. As I say that, has to correct, but keeps things going.
Yeah, Christian there with a little bit of an unsteady run. Maybe something with the car. I'm not too sure. An 85.3 for the second run of Christian Petrov. And now for Carlos Diogo, sitting on a 0. This run means everything. Let's see what you got. Sends it in. Gets through outer zone 1, drives it up into outer zone 2. Looking a little better on the drive down to that inside clip this time around. Drops some tire though, but keeps it together. And this is where it all went wrong for him last run, but he makes through it. Little hesitant coming into that final outer zone, but just puts the car where it needs to be to get those points on the board.
Yeah, not bad at all from Carlos. A little late on that initiation. That could be some of that score there. 83.7 on the board, but it will put him on the board. Oliver Eppinger up for his second run. After getting a 91.7 on the board for run 1. Nicely done on that initiation. Fully committed here. Not seeing any break. Does bump that inside clip and comes up a little shallow for those 2 outside zones there to start off that power alley section. Nicely done. And going in a little hot, and he stays off the wall. Woo.
Wow. That had me a bit scared. I was like, Oliver, no.
I about stood up in my seat.
Yeah, but he got back on throttle. If in doubt, throttle out. And he made it work, but sadly only getting an 81 for the second run. As we move over to Jordan El Nasser, sitting on that 83 and looking to improve. Again, like I said, in the first run, he did message me saying, I got minimal practice this run, but he's just going to try his best. And we'll see how he can do here. Looking a little more settled there on the second run. Still could have been a bit deeper into outer zone 2 and a little tighter to that inside clip. Same with outer zone 3, but really chucking it in there for that transition to try and hold as much speed as he can. It's all starting to come together, dropping some tire into the final outer zone. Not as deep as he could be, but maybe enough to beat that 83.
Yeah, it's going to be close on that board. And a 79. So falling short of that 83. Will stick with the 83, and we'll have to wait and see if that'll be enough to get him in the top 32, or maybe the last 16 that'll happen later on here during this qualifying. And here's Masashi entering in and filling outside zone 2 at the top of that little bank there. Really tight to the inside clip. Nicely done. Filling that next outside zone as well. Does come up a little shallow for outside zone 4, but nicely done on 5, 6. And he's going wide. He's going to drop tire. And that is a tough one to recover from, but he does. And continues on across that finish line.
Wow, I thought Masashi was going to absolutely loop it there, and he just added all the angle possible, got back on throttle, and kept it together, which was very impressive to see. Good driving from Masashi Yoshida. We wait to see what his score will be. That's a 78, so not as good as that 90. So we'll see. Our final run here of Group 1, Stanislav Tarasov sitting on that 91.3, looked very dialed in the first run. Could have been a little closer there to the inside clip, but still looking very good. Very minor adjustments in the wheel. Nothing crazy to upset the car. Looking nice and solid. Coming into that final outer zone, putting it on that yellow line, and driving it home.
Yeah, another run nicely done from Stanislav Tarasov. Sitting on that 91.3. Let's see if that's going to be enough. And a 90.3, falling just shy, but fair enough. That first run was absolutely dialed in for Stanislav, and that's going to do it for our first group of qualifying. Done and over with already, and Robert sits on top with a 94.3 on the board. Oliver Eppinger with his 91.7. And Stanislav Tarasov, 91.3 on that first run. So far, nicely done from all of those drivers there in Group 1. I think our lowest score overall was just that 79. Yeah, tough course. If you're wondering, track will go out to the public after this round. Everyone to enjoy. But definitely be sure to go check out all of 00's content on Race Department. Really nicely done. Fictional fantasy tracks. I believe even Low Fuel Motorsports was using this with some circuit racing for a little while there.
Well, it's a very nicely designed track, even for a fantasy track. It's very well done, very well put together. Even the banking on a couple of the corners look just gorgeous, and the track itself beautifully detailed.
Yeah, absolutely. All the details and all the features as well. All the CSP features that you could really want. All even the digital flags work. I actually had to turn those off before starting this round, as they having to edit the AI line, and cars sitting on that AI line still would trigger those caution flags to work. But fun animations everywhere as well. All of them usually have little Easter eggs and stuff, so be sure to fly around them as well. See what you can find. So very, very well put together stuff.
Yeah, I think the public are going to be really excited to get their hands on this one. This was such a fun track. Even me, I broke out the wheel for a little bit and even did some practice on my own on it. And I haven't done that in a long time, and it was really fun track to get back into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Full commitment. And I believe and our first driver for Group 2 coming up to the line, Brandon Patrick, will kick things off for us. And Fiorella, the 8-foot by 8-foot box of a car that we have to design our chicane around. And lights are on. Through that chicane. And initiating in a tad behind there. Filling outside zone 2. Nicely done here for turn 1. Really tight to that inside clip. And cooking into this power alley section. All the way out there to the edge. Good transition as well. Right where he needs to be for these zones. And dialed in is Brandon Patrick across that finish line.
Brandon really going for it there on the first run. Maybe a small little mistake going into 10, but an 87.7 on the board for the first run. Not bad at all. We move on to our next driver here of Group 2, Marcus, Mr. Pink Drifter Lundquist. Always great to see him out in the most hottest of boys, 240SX. Great car to see out here. Initiates in, goes through outer zone 2. Nice and tight to the inside clip, pushes all the way out, tries to fill that whole zone, makes the transition work. Could have been a bit deeper there on that last outer zone. It makes up for it on the next 2. One transition left to go. Couldn't drive the car all the way out, grabbed a bunch of grip. Car tried to straighten out on him, but he managed to make it work around that last outside zone.
Yeah, that last zone is really, really tough. It's extremely easy to drop too much speed coming into it, and then by the time you pick up throttle, you jump right on outside of that zone. Just like we saw from Marcus there, 79.3, but that's all right. He's got another run left to go. And here's Zach O'Sullivan, last season's champion, and initiating in. All the way up there to that edge of the course. Down for that inside clip. And fully committed on that throttle. As he fills that next outside zone. Good transition. And look at there all the way to that yellow line there and across that finish line. Zach O'Sullivan showing us how it's done.
Wow. If you guys wanted a demo run, well, there it is. A 95 for his first run. Zach the Madman O'Sullivan. Wow. Coming out swinging. And next up to the line, well, kind of his arch nemesis in a way, Alan Hines. In the Hines S15, initiates in. Puts it out to track edge, grabs a bit of dirt though, getting out to outer zone 2 as he tries to swing it back down for that inside clip. Makes it work and looking dialed here. Lots of speed through that power alley section. And looking really good here is Alan Hines. Comes into that final outer zone. And puts it right there as well. Another show, stop, and run. Back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. A really point of emphasis there, and the difference between those two runs, as we see Alan Hines get a 93 on that board, is Alan kind of carried a little bit too wide there before outside zone 2, got up to that track edge a little early, and even dropped a little tire. We want to see those drivers get up to that track edge just before that outside zone, just like that. We see from Jean Reeves. He works through that turn 1, filling that next outside zone. Nicely done on that transition. Continuing on here through this power alley section. Doing what he needs to do on the correct line. Does jump off that track edge just a little bit, back out to the line, and across that finish line.
It is Jean looking really good out there, really dialed in the Corvette. And 91.7 on the board for the first run. So very good job indeed. As we move over to Daniel Andrzej, who is looking very solid in practice. We'll see what they can lay down here. Initiates in. Big angle off the initiation. Holding it together. Getting all the way up there for outer zone 2. Dropping it down for that inside clip. Pushes out into the little power alley section. Makes the transition work. Lots of speed. He brings it in for the second to last transition. One more to go. Right to that track edge. Daniel looking really good out there in that BMW.
Yeah, Daniel, once again, putting down a qualifying run that should score high here. And it does. 91 on the board for Daniel Andreev. his first run. Ethan Pikachu at the line, ready to go. And initiating in nicely from Ethan. Does work out a little wide, a little early. Filling that outside zone though, down to the inside clip. And a little shallow there on the outside zone, but tight to that inside clip. We want to see those lead drivers stay off that inner rumble strip for that second inside clip, and he does so nicely. And then down into this last and final outside zone. Across that finish line, Ethan Pikachu.
Ethan there really showing out. This group 2, I think they learned from group 1, and now they're all putting it on the line. A 92.7 there for Ethan. We have Artem Cholkov now going for their first run. Artem initiates in, lots of angle off that initiation, looking good, driving a good line up to outer zone 2, down to that inside clip, looking good out there. Through the little power alley section, transitions to inside clip 2. Looking very good, maybe kicking up just the smallest of dirt there. Putting it on the track edge, and yeah, looking good out there, Artem.
Yeah, changing chassis. It was surprised to see him change from that RX-7, but did a really nice job there in that new car. We can see what that score is going to be, and it's going to be a good one. 94.3 on the board. To wait for his second run to see who will end up in that second position between him and Robert. Here's Austin Zalewski. And fully committed through turn 1 so far. Down to that inside clip. Coming up a little shallow for outside 3, but not 4. Getting out to 5. Big transition, almost late there. Last and final one. All the way out there as far as he can go. And nicely done from Austin Zalewski.
Yeah, Austin putting in a good run, even with a couple little mistakes. Able to keep it together and put the car where it needed to be, and ends up with a 92. That'll do it for the first set of runs. Back to the top here with Brandon Patrick sitting on that 87.7 after seeing the rest of group 2. I think he's going to want to try and put down a better run. Initiates into outer zone 1. Looking good. A nice drive up to outer zone 2. Down through that inside clip. Holding a nice line here. Filling outer zone 3 and 4 beautifully. Not touching that rumble strip. Could have filled 5 a little bit more, but makes the transition work for outer zone 6, now into outer zone 7, that final outer zone. Yeah, it does good. Good run there from Brandon.
Yeah, will it be enough to beat the 87.7 he currently has on the board? And he does, 91.3, and he moves up. Marcus back at the line. Good initiation from him. It looked like he might even three-wheeled off that initiation. Does come up shallow for outside zone 2, but nicely done for inside clip 1. Outside 4 dropping just a tiny little bit of tire. Coming up shallow again. As he works through this course here. Dropping just a little bit of tire. Keeping things going though. And across that finish line from Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus trying to put on a good run, but just making quite a few mistakes, dropping quite a bit of tire, but enough to improve. So he ends up with an 81.3 for the second run, so does improve off of that 79.3. And sitting on a 95 currently is this man here, Zach O'Sullivan, in that Sim Magic S14. Initiates in. Let's see how he does on his second run here. Looking good out of inside or outside zone 1 and 2. Driving it down, just grazing that inside clip. Pushing all the way out to 3, dropping a tad of tire though for outer zone 3. Makes the transition into 4, grabs 5 beautifully. Now into 5 and 6. Now into 7. right on that track edge. Look at that. That tire almost not even moving from that yellow line as he finishes out the run.
Yeah, it's going to be close if that's going to beat the 95. Dropping that little bit of tire at outside zone 3 and then maybe a little shallow 4 outside 4. And it does fall just a little shy, 94.3, but a really good tie-breaking score to have if need be. Alan Hines at the line, ready to go. And a tough act to follow. There he goes, entering in. And ends up a little wide again. Just to correct that angle just a little bit. Down to the inside clip. And through this power alley section. Hammering down on that throttle. Oh, just a little bit wide there. And into the last and final outside zone. And there he goes across that finish line.
Yeah, Alan Hines trying to match that run and doing a very good job. A couple little spots where we saw some puffs of dirt, but it comes out to a 92 for the second run of Alan Hines. Not a bad run overall and a good tiebreaker score. 91.7 for Dijon Reeves here in the Corvette. Great first run. Let's see how the second run goes. Initiates in. Holding a good line up to outer zone 2. Down to that first inside clip, nice and tight to it, all the way out to outer zone 3, then 4. Grabs that next inside clip, then outer zone 5. Not a lot of wavering out of the steering. He's looking good out there. Little hesitant into that final outer zone, but grabs the throttle back up and finishes it out. Looking good, Dijon.
Yeah, will it be enough to beat the 91.7? Dijon Reeves, 93, it does. That'll move him up into 5th position. And for qualifying round 3, Daniel through the chicane and off for his second run, coming off that 91. Really throwing that car to angle on initiation. As he continues on through turn 1. Could have been just a tiny bit tighter to inside clip, but flying through the course now. Fully committed, as he should be. And just could have been a tiny bit deeper on that last and final outside zone, but another strong run from Daniel Andreev.
Very strong run indeed, and enough to beat his old score. 92 on the board for the second run. Then sitting on a 92.7. Ethan Pikachu here. Looking to maybe improve, maybe match. More than likely improve, though. Down the straight he comes and initiates in. Looking good through outer zone 1. Goes way wide, though, and drops 3. And that will be a 0 for Ethan's second run. He tried to full send it through that first turn and just couldn't find the grip he needed and fell off and dropped 3 tires.
Yeah, it definitely looks like maybe made some tuning adjustments that possibly didn't pay off there. But either way, 92.7 on the board. He'll be sitting nicely for probably top 32. And Artem Chokov at the line, ready to go for his second run. 94.3 for run 1 in the new chassis. And throwing that car in there. Up to that track edge for outside zone 2. He goes down to inside clip. Working through the power alley section here in that M2. Oh, that's some final transition. Really well done there. Across that finish line, Artem Chokov. Will that be enough to beat the 94.3?
It looks like it could be, and it is. It's a 95.3.
Yeah,
wow.
That knocks Zach off the top.
So our new top qualifier there, Artem Chokov. Our final run here of Group 2, Austin Silveski sitting on a 92. Austin drives it out to outer zone 2. Could have been a bit deeper into outer zone 2 and punts the inside clip. have filled outer zone 3 a little bit more, but he is carrying a lot of speed, not really filling these zones as deep as he could be. But on the final outer zone, following that yellow line perfectly, we'll see what kind of score Austin gets for our final run here of Group 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one if that's going to be enough. Yeah, it's going to fall just a little short, 89.7, but still 92 on the board. He currently sits 8th position. There we go, rounding out our top 16 so far between just 2 groups of qualifying. Christian Petrov, 88.3, but our top 3, Artem now sits on top, 95.3, knocking Zach O'Sullivan off the top. Zach sits at second, 95, and Robert Yevsensky, 94.3 on the board with Allen right behind him with his 93, and Dajan coming out swinging, 93 on the board for him as well in that beautiful Corvette that he has been driving this season. Rookie driver there as well, up into that top 10. We'll have to wait and see if that will hold up. Let's see what it'll take to get locked into the top 32 as well. If you're joining us for the first time, we have qualifying battles after the normal qualifying runs. What we have started to call the last 16 qualifying battles. And it will be a fun one.
Yeah, they've turned out to been really good, and you know, after the last 2 events that we've had doing it, it normally shows that even if you made it into the top 32, you might not make it into the competition in those last 16 battles, as the guys who normally qualify under, they put on a fight and they want that spot, and you got to give it everything in those last 16 battles, and I think it was a great addition to this year's roster.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll even bring up those rules for everyone to see if you were curious. So, the 29th through 44th qualifiers, they get locked in. Or excuse me, those are the drivers that will get put into the last 16. So from 1st to 28th, they are locked into that top 32. And then in those last 16 battles, they're run just like any normal top 32 battles. Top 16 battles is single elimination battles consisting of those 2 runs, and we flip the drivers as we work through those. And of course, those lead car goals don't change, as well as those chase driver goals. So really the biggest point was we had so many drivers that were still getting 90-point qualifying runs last season that weren't making it into the top 32, and we sometimes never got to see those drivers battle at all throughout the season. And I think we all know at this point, you know, getting a 90 here in the Virtual Drift Championship, it's a tough one, and those drivers are highly skilled. And amongst the drivers, that was one of the things that they wanted to see was more battles and maybe, you know, the possible chance to get in those battles. Some were getting frustrated was you know, getting really good scores and then never being able to battle. So this way, it adds a bunch of extra drivers to that list, and the battles have ended up being very exciting. All of them, you know, really have the same qualifying scores as well that are going against each other. But here we have Russell Jones at the line, not Marcel, for his first run of the day, and looking good off initiation, flying up to the outside zone 2, and he's going to go super deep, 2 wheels off. Big correction through that inside clip as well. Well, the score will suffer here from Russell Jones, but he might as well take the rest of the run to get a little bit of practice in, and he'll still end up with some points on the board as well if he can keep things going. And there he goes across that finish line.
Yeah, Russell Jones looking really out of shape there on the first run after, you know, driving too hard into outer zone 2 and just taking that high road in the dirt, but trying to salvage what he could out of it. And he does come up with a nice number at least. So 69 points on the board for Russell Jones for his first run. Marcel at the line and ready to go for their first run of qualifying. Initiates in. Looking good through outer zone 1. Drives it nicely up towards outer zone 2. Back down. Nicely grabbing that inside clip. Through the power alley section through 3 and 4. Now into outer zone 5 and 6. Good transition. Makes it work. Last transition to go. Outer zone 7 slows it down just a little too much. Has to drive back out to that outside edge. But finishes out the run.
And that last outside zone, super tricky to get right and nail. But some points coming on the board for Marcel. 87. We're on to Ernestes at the line, ready to go. Lights on and through the chicane. A good initiation. Getting out wide a little early though, but filling that next outside zone down to the inside clip. So work into this power alley section. Good transition, but we see a little puff of dirt there in outside zone 4. Big angle. Last and final transition and zone. Very smooth from Ernestes throughout that first run.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to put it. It was a very smooth run from Ernestes, and it showed up in the points as well with a 91.7. So Ernestes doing it right. He's just got to clean up a few more things, and he can have a very solid run there. As we move over to Erikas Yerkes, leaving the start gate, lighting those tires up all the way down the straight, initiates in, gets through outer zone 1, drives up to outer zone 2 nicely, drops it into that first inside clip, but just nicks it as he comes through the power alley section 3 and 4, kicking up some dirt there through outer zone 4. Filling all of 5, maybe could have been a tad deeper into outer zone 6. One last transition, one last outer zone. Has to try to hold it together, almost went clean into that wall after falling off track, and we'll see how the judges will score that big off.
Yeah, it's going to be a heavy deduction and an unfortunate one to see. That run was looking really solid, and a 75 on the board. William Holloway now at the line. Lights on. He's ready to go for run 1. Turning back in the FD RX-7. Big initiation, big angle as well. So he works up to that track edge for turn 1 and outside zone 2. Down to the inside clip. Nicely done as he continues on. Solid run so far from William Holloway. He uses a little bit of left foot brake to get to that next outside zone. Good transition though. Last and final one. Oh, and he jumps off that outside zone, works it back out there, and across that finish line.
Again, another really solid run. William Holloway there putting it together, and then just failing a little bit on that outer zone. Doesn't hurt him too bad, though. Still ends up with a 91. On to our next driver, Olivier. Oh, Olivier changing chassis? Sweet. Good to see you out there in a Ferrari, Olivier.
It looks like we have skipped all the way to Alexander Element.
Alexander Element. Sorry, my bad there. I was like, Olivier switched chassis. That's a little weird. In a Ferrari, nonetheless. But we see Alexander Element coming through the first 4 outer zones there. Alexander Element doing what he does good. It does well. Putting that car exactly where it needs to be. Really hucking that big Ferrari around. Getting into that last outer zone, right on that yellow line. Looking good was Alexander Element.
Yeah, nice smooth run from Alexander in that giant of a car. And a 94.7, big score from Alexander. And now, Olivier Blais, ready to go.
That car looks correct.
It is indeed. See, enters in. And fully committed here through turn 1. I hear him just laying on that throttle. Does pull quite the angle out there before outside zone 3, though, as he continues on here. On the right line. Last and final zone. And nicely done from Olivier.
Yeah, Olivier really laying it down there in the S14. Doing a great job. And 90.7 for Olivier's first run, so very good job indeed. See how much you can maybe improve that on your second run. Next up, Kevin Stump in that NOS Energy Drink Z. Heading down towards initiation and outside zone 1. Drives it up towards 2, looking good. Taking out the front, the inside clip there just a little bit. Making it work as he drops some tire there around outside zone 4, but fills all of 5 and 6. Driving a nice line there, or sorry, through 6 and then into 7, our final outer zone. Yeah, Kevin Stump looking good.
Yeah, that might have been one of the best qualifying runs we've seen so far this season from Kevin Stump. Dialed in here at Pascani, and a 90 on the board for Kevin as we move along to Dimitri Mitten. A nice looking car from Dimitri. Big fan, and big angle there as he initiates. Somehow keeps it going as he works down to that inside clip. Big angle there for outside zone 3 as well. Comes up a little bit short, 4-5. Last and final transition. Picking up that throttle. And across that finish line, nicely done from Dimitri Mitten.
Yeah, Dimitri there doing a good run. Few little mistakes that can be shaped up on the next one, ending up with an 89. As we move over to our final driver here of Group 3 before going back up top for the second set of runs. Joao Victor De Paula Silva initiates in. Looking good through outer zone 1. Little out of shape there going through that inside clip and dropping some tire on outer zone 3. Not filling all of outer zone 5. Comes through 6 nicely and 7. Makes the final transition. Stays along it very nicely. A decent run there from Joao.
Yeah, doing a nice job there for his first run of the day. We wait on those scores. Russell Jones at the line, ready to go for his second run, and a 90.3 for Juan. Here's Russell Jones. Lights are on and through the chicane. Coming off that nice score for run 1 as he initiates in and drives off the line a little bit. As he works it out there, he's going to stay a little bit wide, a little too long, and that's going to put him wide for inside clip as well. Down to outside zone 3 and 4. He's back on the right line, but wavering on that angle again. Continuing on. Last zone. And there he goes across that finish line. So an improvement from run 1.
An improvement indeed, but maybe not enough to get in today's competition. A 75 for Russell Jones's second run. So we have Marcel back at the line, ready to go, sitting on that 87. After seeing a lot of these drivers starting to get up into the 90s, you got to start to worry. Maybe an 87 won't be enough to really secure your spot, or will you end up in the last 16 battles and fighting for one of those last 4 spots, coming through the first 3 clips there, nicking that inside clip as he comes through the power alley section. Marcel now through outside zone 5 and 6, hitting 7, kicking up a bit of dirt, throws it into that final outer zone, drives that yellow line nicely around. Marcel might have improved on that one.
Yeah, I think he did. They're currently sitting on that 87, but a nicely done run there. No, he falls a little shy. 84.7 on the board for Marcel. And Ernestes, ready for his second run, 91.7. He currently sits on. Good transition in. On the right line there, all the way up to that track edge. Here he comes down to that inside clip. Another smooth run so far from Ernestes, really dialed in on the angle. You see little wavers. Very smooth. Picking up that throttle just maybe a little late, maybe a little too much speed. Drops a little bit of tire. But he continues on. It'll be tough for that to beat his current 91.7.
Oh, it was all going so well until it all went not well at all. But an 88.7 for Inessa's second score. Still has that 91.7 though. As we move over to Eric Kazirkis, already initiating in, sitting on that 75. He's got to get some good points on the board. Looking good through outer zone 2. Adjusts his angle a bit for that inside clip, but makes it out to outer zone 3. Grabs 4 nicely. Drives it all the way out to 5. Fills the whole zone. Then 6. Looking real good here is Ericus. One last outer zone to go. And Ericus laying it down this time.
Much better from Ericus. And an 89.7 on the board as we work around to William Holloway for his second run. 91 on the board currently. And that FDRX7. Partnering with Kyle Mohan with it. As he works through turn 1 and up to outside zone 2. And down to the inside clip. Does have to make a tiny little correction to get around that inside clip. Good transition though. Start this power rally section. Nice and snappy from William Holloway here. And last and final one. Over rotating just a little bit. He will keep it going, but that will be quite the deduction.
A little too much said there from William Holloway. That definitely hurt his score there, an 83.3. But still has that 91 on the board as Alexander Element gets to the line. The lights go on. Alexander Element sitting on that 94.7. Will he improve or will he get a good tiebreaker score? Initiates in. Drives out to outer zone 2. Maybe a little offline as he drove out to outer zone 2, but fills it completely. He grabs outer zone 3 and 4. And now looking super dialed in, dropping some tire around outer zone 6. That's going to offset him a little bit here. Into the wall he goes. And that's sadly probably going to be an incomplete for Alexander Element's second run.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but still sitting on a really solid score. That 94.7 from Alexander Element is what he'll hang on to. Here's Olivier back on the line, 90.7 for him. So he leaves the gate 4 run 2 and initiating in. A little wide, a little too early. We see a little puff of dirt there for outside zone 2. And a bit wide for inside clip. So he is cooking through the course now. The outside zone 5, 6, and 7. And picking up that throw. There he goes across that finish line.
Olivier trying to lay it all down on the second run, but ends up falling short. An 86.7 for the second run of Olivier. Now sitting on a 90. Kevin Stump. See what Kevin Stump can do here on the second run. Initiates in. Looks good through outer zone 1. Little bobble there going towards outer zone 2. Almost like he was trying to correct his angle to really get out to outer zone 2. Didn't think he had the drive for it. Shallow on outer zone 3. Fills all of outer zone 4. Now able to drive out to outer zone 5. Dropping some tire there on outer zone 6. Grabs 7. Now the final transition through into that final outside zone. Has to drive out to that white or yellow line. We'll see how the judges will score him for that one.
And he's going to fall just a little shy. 88.7 on the board for Kevin Stump's second run of the day. Dimitri Mitten off for his second run. Currently with an 89 and a big transition or initiation again from Dimitri. You'll see a little puff of dirt there for outside zone 2 as he hangs on to it maybe a little long. Good transition though as he picks up speed for this power rally section. Good transition, but he's going to end up a little wide, just a little late on that transition. So he works into this last and final outside zone. And there he goes, finishing it out.
We wait for the scores to come in, and 88.7. So not a bad job there as he finished off with the highest score of 89 on the first run. And then sitting on that 90.3 is Joao Victor de Paula Silva. Initiates in. And our final driver here of Group 3. Looking good so far. Nice and tight to that inside clip. Driving all the way out for outer zone 3 and 4. Getting on the brake a little bit. Dabbing that left foot brake. Trying to reach all the way out to those zones. Kicking up some dirt. And a quick transition into that final outer zone. But holds it nicely around the final outer zone. And good way to finish out group number 3.
Absolutely. Currently sitting on that 90.3. Will it be enough? And he's going to tie it with another 90.3 on the board. And yeah, again, that's going to do it for 3 groups of qualifying. And look at there, Artem still sits on top with his 95.3. Zach O'Sullivan with his 95, and Alexander Element rounding out the top 3 drivers, 94.7. So we're going to take a small short break, give the server a restart to load in our next group of qualifying.
Never tried, tell them all. Big dreams, I got
right, we are back for some more qualifying here at Pascani MotorPark by 00, a fictional fantasy track here in the set of Corsa for our round 3 layout. Here's your current top 8 qualifiers. Artem sitting on top, 95.3. Zach O'Sullivan with his 95, and Alexander Element with his 94.3 on the board. We watch those drivers take their last little bit of practice runs before we kick off Group 4. Right, last call from those judges. Looks like we'll have Austin Meeks come to the line for the first run of Group 4. Right, Austin at the line, ready to go. Wait on those lights. There they are, turning blue, and he's ready to go through that chicane. And initiating in. Looking good so far through turn 1. Does come up a little bit short of outside zone 2, but nicely done for that inside clip as he continues on. Comes up short for that outside zone as well, but getting the next one and that inside clip. Nice and smooth on these transitions so far through the course as well. Last and final one here. It's come up a little bit shallow, but works out to the edge and back towards the inside. Across that finish line, Austin Meeks.
Austin Meeks actually putting down a pretty decent run, even though he hasn't, done too much with us in the last little while. But it's great to see him back in action. 86.3 for his first run, so not bad at all. Next up to the line is Augusto Ferreira in the Toyota Supra. The lights go blue and off he goes. Initiates in. Driving a good line up to outer zone 2. A little bobble there as he just got to outer zone 2. Just had to correct his angle a little bit. Drives out to outer zone 3. Could have been a bit deeper in outer zone 3. Makes the transition for outer zone 4 and 5. Grabs outer zone 6. And a good drive through 7. One last transition to go. And into the wall goes Augusto Ferreira. Just miscalculating that last transition. And sadly, getting a 0.
I was hoping for a quick little J-turn there from him to flip it around. An unfortunate one to see, though, from Augusto. He was on a good score there, I think, and just, came in a little bit too hot into that last and final outside zone. Here's Darius Elstreka. Initiating in. Looking good so far here through turn 1. Down to that inside clip. Continuing on. Coming up a little bit shallow there. Does fill outside zone 4, though. Nicely done for that inside clip. The next outside zone as well. On a really good line here through second half of the course as he picks up throttle nice and smooth. And there he goes across that finish line. Darius Elstreka.
Yeah, Darius looking very dialed in that round, or that run, and kind of stunned, actually. It was a very perfect run. And the score shows for it, a 95.3 for Darius Ostreika's first run. He still has another one. At the line now, though, is Raman Katastrenka in the FD-RX-7. Initiates in. Lots of angle thrown off the initiation through outer zone 1. Has to correct it, though, as he started to over-rotate. Grabs outer zone 2. Nice and tight to the inside clip as he tries to push out to fill all of outer zone 3. Doesn't quite do it. Gets through 4, though. And the next inside clip and 5. Drives it down to 6 and 7. Now starting to look a little more settled. Coming into that final outer zone. Driving it nicely around that track edge. Finishes out Raman's first run.
Yeah, pretty solid run there from Raman. Really just that big initiation, almost over-rotating off that initiation. 87.7 on the board. Here's Pontus Jakobsen at the line. Ready to go in his little FD-RX-7. Initiating in nicely from Pontus as he tries to work it up for outside zone 2, but doesn't quite get there. He works around that inside clip now. Struggling on that first transition of the course. Goes a little wide there. Last and final one here as he picks up throttle. Ooh, and out to the wall. He straightens up, shuts the run down. That'll be all she wrote for Pontus's first run of the day, but he's got a second one.
And another chance there to get off of that 0. So hopefully he can make it happen. Abdulaziz Al-Harbi in the GT86 gets the blue lights and starts the first run of qualifying. Down the long straight, initiates in. Looks good through outer zone 1. Driving a nice line towards outer zone 2. Good around that inside clip as well. Pushes out for outer zone 3. Doesn't quite fill it fully. Same with outer zone 5. Makes the transition through 6 down towards 7. Looking better now for these last 3 outer zones as he drives out to that yellow line and finishes out the run.
Yeah, nice smooth run from Abdulaziz Al-Harbi. Really like that initiation from him as well. And an 88.3 on the board for his first run. Anton Kozlov at the line ready to go for his first run. Sends it in. Good here so far, but does come up shallow for outside zone 2 as he works down to that inside clip. Next outside zone. Big angle there to start off that power alley section. Good transition. Coming up a little bit shallow for that zone as well as he throws it into the last and final outside zone here, continuing on and across that finish line.
Yeah, Anton there, not sure what was going on, why he was missing a couple of those, not filling those zones completely. Maybe just playing it a little safe for the first run and going to go all out in the second. Riley Sabush at the line. The lights go out. Starts his first run of qualifying. Initiates in, looking good off the initiation. A little offline driving up towards outer zone 2, but makes it work. Down through that inside clip, filling all of outer zone 3 and 4. Looking good here, just some minor corrections. Nothing crazy though, as he drops some tire through outer zone 6. Comes through 7, maybe dropping tire, entering into that final outer zone. Not enough to pick up any dirt as he drives out of it and takes home the first run of qualifying.
And an 89 on the board. Strong score for Riley Sabush. Start things out. I believe we have a driver asking for a 5-minute timeout. I think we're gonna skip ahead to Mustafa. Here we go, Mustafa through that chicane. Sounds like Alves was having some VR issues. He'll be back in the server in just a moment. Mustafa works out to outside zone 2. Laying down a heater so far is Mustafa. Good transition here. All the way out to that track edge. Good angle as well. Bunch of angle. Last and final transition. Trying to get as deep as he can. And does end up working out to that yellow line and across that finish line. Mustafa.
Yeah, very good run there from Mustafa. Really, really going for it. And a 94 for Mustafa Amane's run. As we're back around to the top for Austin Meeks. Austin Meeks sitting on that 86.3, wanting to improve. Doesn't fill all of outer zone 2. Grabs that inside clip. Tries to fill as much as outer zone 3 as he can. Or making that transition down to outer zone 4, 5, and 6. Now 7, looking a little better now. Little bit of lag, though, I'm seeing on my end. Not sure if that's coming up on yours, but
yeah, I got it
out the run nice and clean.
Very, very interesting transition coming into that last and final outside zone. A 76.3 on the board. Really just coming up shallow on those almost every outside zone. See if that top score is going to be enough to put him on into top 32 or the last 16 battles. Here's Augusto entering in. Currently having that goose egg. Got to put a score on the board here. Continues on. And pouring on the angle. Oddly through that inside clip. Last and final transition. And he gets it together this time. Last time we saw him go into the wall. He shut the run down. There he goes across that finish line. So points on the board for Augusto.
Yeah, Augusto doing what he needed to do and getting those points on the board. Hopefully it's enough to maybe see competition later today or even the last 16 battles. And he ends up with an 86. An 86 for a final score there for Augusto Ferreira. As we move over to Darius Ostraka, sitting on that 95.3, initiates in and looking good as he drives it out to outer zone 2, right up to the track edge, down to that inside clip, all the way out to outer zone 3, all the way out to outer zone 4, second inside clip, beautiful, dropping some tire through outer zone 6 so as he gets through 7. If anything were to hurt this run, it'll be that tire drop, because the rest of it looked absolutely amazing.
Yeah, currently sitting on that 95.3, needs a high tiebreaker score, and he certainly went after it. And a 92.7 on the board for him as Rahman is at the line ready to go. I'll put Darius down in just second position. Oh no, we see Rahman smack the concrete reinforced cones. He works through turn 1 up to outside zone 2. Nicely done for the inside clip. Big transition there, really cooking. And just laying into the throttle is Rahman. I think a much better run for him in that second round of qualifying.
Yeah, he definitely went for it on that second run. I hope that's enough to hopefully beat that score of an 87.7. We wait for the one final score to come in, and he does with an 89. So very good job there from Rahman. As we move over to Pontus Jakobsen, another driver sitting on a 0 here. Pontus has this one run to get it done. Initiates in, looking a little shallow off the initiation through outer zone 1. But uses it to drive all the way to outer zone 2, gets down into that inside clip, grabs it and moves on through the next 2 outside zones. Almost seems like he's wrestling with the car, fighting for it every time he tries to get it into drift, but gets through the course in the last outer zone now, and hopefully gets something on the board.
Yeah, it will be points on the board, I believe. Yeah, 76.7. So we'll have to wait and see again what that cutoff is going to be for the last 16 battles. Here's Abdulaziz Al Harbi. 88.3 is what he's currently sitting on. Initiation. It's a little bit shallow there on that line through turn 1 up to outside zone 2. Nicely done for the inside clip though. That next outside zone as well. On the correct line here, out to the track edge. Big angle, and he's gonna go wide and off track a little late on that transition. That sends him off wide, but he finishes out the run.
Finishing out the run indeed was Abdulaziz Al Harbi on that 88.3. He ends up with a 79.7 for the second run. Not as good as he probably wanted, but still has that high score of that 88.3. As we move over to Anton Kozlov now. Anton sitting on that 88. He starts the second run of qualifying, initiates in lots of angle off that initiation, which gives him the ability to drive out to that outer zone 2 and grab that inside clip nicely. Does he fill all 3? Not quite all the way out to the track edge, but makes it work for the transition. A little shallow there on outer zone 5 as well. Grabs 6 by dropping a little bit of dirt or a little bit of tire as he comes through the final outer zone now, trying to beat that 88.
And falling just a little shy, 86 on the board, so he'll stick with his 88. Here's Riley. Well, for his second run of the day, currently sitting with an 89 on the board. So he initiates in. All the way out there to outside zone 2. Working down to the inside clip. And trying to better the 89. Maybe on track to do so here with run 2. Good transition. Right where he needs to be. That's some final transition as well. And across that finish line is Riley Sobush.
Yeah, Riley looking a little more dialed that time around. Maybe got rid of those pre-qualifying jitters and ends up with a 91. So beating that 89. And now the third driver in this group that was sitting on a 0, Victor Alves. Victor has this run to make it happen, really throwing it in off that initiation. That's going to cause him to almost miss outer zone 2, but he does manage to grab just a little bit of it down to that inside clip through outer zone 3 and 4, dropping some tire on outer zone 3, transitioning through 5 and 6 now. Really just kind of a Hail Mary run here from Victor Alves, trying to get anything on the board he can as he crosses that finish line.
Yeah, I think job well done there with the pressure on having that 0 and not being able to make it for his first run, having those VR issues. And an 81 on the board for him, our last and final driver here for this group. Group 4, Mustafa is currently sitting with that 94 on the board. What can he do for run number 2? Getting around those tungsten steel cones and entering in. Nicely done for turn 1 so far as he works down to that inside clip. Another heater of a run so far from Mustafa as he makes the small angle correction and maybe a little bit too much angle for that inside clip. Really pours it on there through that section of the course into the last and final outside zone, picking up throttle on time and across that finish line.
Yeah, Mustafa there, hoping to improve on that 94, and does by 1 point and gets into the 95 club. Mustafa Amine, what a way to round out Group 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we look at those top qualifying scores on the board. It looks like Austin Meeks is going to round out the current top 32, so that would technically put him in the last 16. Again, 29 through 44 get put into that last 16 battle, so the top 28 are locked into the top 32 as we see Christian Petrov hanging on to that position with his 88.3, but Artem Chokhov still sitting on top, 95.3. Darius Ostraka with his 95.3 now, and Zach O'Sullivan in third with a 95. Mustafa with his 95. Alexander Element as well, 94.7. Robert Jevsensky, 94.3. Alan Hines with his 93, and Dajon Reeves rounding out our top 8 with his 93 on the board as well. Be our this is our last group of qualifying today, isn't it, as well? I believe
One more to go.
one more, so
This
6
one
groups.
and then one more. Yeah, 6 groups.
We see group 5 take their last little bit of practice runs. I believe we got last call from the judges just now, so we'll have our first driver of the group come up, Maxime Tingai. Right, and the lights are illuminated. He's ready to go for his first run of the day. Maxime Tingai returning back in that S15. Looking good off initiation, really flying up to outside zone 2, working down for the inside clip, gets that big bumper around that cone. Nicely done so far here throughout the course. Good transition there through that power alley section as well. Good transition. Jumps off that zone just a little bit, but works back out and across that finish line.
A very solid run there from Maxime Tingai. Maybe just a little bit of a waver coming through that second inside clip as he tried to make his way out to outer zone 5. But a 92.3, that is a great score to start things out. Lazam up next for their first run of qualifying. Initiates in that S14, pushes all the way out to outer zone 2. Does a good job filling the zone down to that inside clip. Gotta push all the way out, not quite filling all of outer zone 3, but getting most of it as he pushes out towards outer zone 5 now, then 6. Picking up just a bit of dirt, but looking good out here is Lazam. Big handbrake pull, that might put him off a little bit. He's gonna have to drive all the way out to that track edge, but finishes out the run.
Yeah, not a shabby run from Lazam. Always confusing me seeing him in that new S chassis and not in the gold Supra from last season. But an 87.7 on the board nonetheless as we wait for Samuel Cuddy to come to the line. Turning back in that F22. Good looking F22 from Samuel Cuddy. Through the chicane, off for run 1, and initiating late, almost after outside zone 1, but works out to outside zone 2 nicely, down to inside clip. Continuing on, smooth on his transition there, out to that track edge for that zone, that one as well. A really nice line here throughout this entire course as he picks up throttle right on that edge. And across that finish line is Samuel Cuddy.
Yeah, Samuel Cuddy really throwing it down there for the first run of qualifying, trying to get up as high as he can and gets a 90 for the first score. So that'll definitely come in handy later on. Alexander Yagard now out for their first run in that S13. Initiates in. Looks good through outer zone 1, drives it out towards outer zone 2, fills all of outer zone 2, down to that inside clip. Not as tight as he could be around the inside clip, but fills all of outer zone 3 and 4. Now pushing out towards outer zone 5. Looking good out there. Just a dab of the left foot brake. Now trying to get that car rotated as he just drops a tire there following that track edge. Now Sandy Jaeger throwing it down.
Yeah, good run. Another kind of late initiation though. Almost after that line. Still rotating through that first outside zone, and an 89 on the board for Alexander Jaeger. So we move on to Ryan Littoral at the line, ready to go. And through that chicane. Good initiation from Ryan Littoral there as he works out to outside zone 2. Down across that inside clip. Nicely done here. Staying on the track as well. No puffs of dirt. He comes up just a little shallow for that outside zone. Nicely done on that one though. Nice and final transition and zone picking up throttle maybe just in time. Does have a small little correction in that zone, but a tough one indeed. And across that finish line.
Ryan Littoral still doing good even with that mistake at the end. An 89.7 for the first run. So the only thing he needs to clean up, he already knows for the second run. It's Brandon Gardner goes out for their first run. Another driver in the NOS Energy Drink Z initiates in. Drives all the way up to outer zone 2. Looking good and solid so far. Really tight to that inside clip. And driving through the power alley section beautifully. He is flying through the course here. We're putting the car exactly where it needs to be. Right on that track edge everywhere, but not kicking up any dirt. Brandon Gardner.
Yeah, dialed in that all-new Z and looking good. 92.7 strong score for Brandon Gardner's first run, and Tikhon Pileski at the line, ready to go. Good to see Tikhon back. And initiating in. Dropping just maybe a little bit of tire. We see the car get a little upset off that initiation, but nicely done for outside zone 2. Could have been a little tighter to inside clip 1. Good transition across that inside clip. Picking up these zones nicely is Tikhon Pileski. Good transition. They're picking up throttle right on that yellow line, staying on the yellow line all the way until the finish. Tikhon.
Is the robot back?
He might be.
You know, maybe he just needed a round. Needed to find himself. Comes out swinging with a 94.3 on his first run of qualifying as we move over to Ethan Minima. Ethan Minima initiates in. Looking good off the initiation, trying to drive it all the way up to outer zone 2 on the left foot brake a little bit there through that outer zone 2. Down now to outer zone 3 and 4. Very, very fast through this whole section, dropping a bit of tire there through outer zone 6. One last transition, puts it on the line, maybe drops a tire, does, kicks up some dirt, is Ethan Minima, but looking solid.
Yeah, nicely done from Ethan there in his first run. 90.3 on the board. And we've got Reese Tatterson at the line, once again teaming up with Alan Hines. This time just promoting Heinze. And Simicube looking good up to outside zone 2, down to the inside clip. Reese dialed in here for turn 1. Nice transition. All the way out there. Ooh, it does go just a little wide there for that outside zone. Jumps off the zone just a little bit there, but staying in it nonetheless. Reese Tatterson looking good for run 1.
Reese Tatterson looking good out there indeed, and ending up with an 89.3 for the first run. As we move to the last driver of the first set of runs here for group number 5. It's going to be Cameron Mustard in that R32. Initiates in. Looks good off the initiation. Quick to angle. Drives it all the way up to outer zone 2. Maybe could have been a bit closer to the track edge. It gets through that inside clip and through outer zone 3 and 4 nicely. Carrying a lot of speed in that R32. Holding it around outer zone 6. Yeah, looking solid here. Solid first run from Cameron Mustard.
Yeah, Cameron looking dialed in that Skyline. Really good initiation. 92.7 on the board for Cameron Mustard. As we're back around to Maxime Tingai for his second run. 92.3 for run 1. See what he can do on run 2 here. Initiating in a little slow on the rotation, trying to work out the outside zone 2, but he comes up short. So he gets around that inside clip, down to outside zone 3 and 4. Picking up 5 nicely. Could have been just a little bit deeper, but all the way out to the track edge for those 2 outside zones. And nicely done for the last and final one as well, as he crosses that finish line for run 2.
Not a too bad run there for Maxime Tingai, getting that 89.3 for the second run, so a good tiebreaker score to break things out with. Up next is Lazam sitting on that 87.7. Lazam initiates in, looking good off the initiation, trying to drive it all the way out to track edge for outer zone 2. Looking good through that inside clip this time around, not filling all of 3. But quickly transitioning for 4 and 5. He's looking better here in the second half of the course. A little more settled. One last outer zone to go. Drops off the edge, but doesn't pick up any dirt. Very solid run. Second run from Lazam.
Yeah, nicely done. 93.3 on the board as well, so a strong score to moving up the positions list. And Samuel Cuddy through the chicane for run 2. Currently sitting on the 90, initiating in, but a little late in doing so. Works out the outside zone 2 though. Comes down for the inside clip. Nice and smooth through turn 1 as Samuel. Good transition. Continuing on nicely is Samuel Cuddy, using a little bit of left foot brake. And there he goes across that finish line.
So Samuel Cuddy improving his score there, getting a 92 on his second run over the 90 from his first. So very good job from Samuel Cuddy as Alexander Yagard leaves the start gate sitting on that 89. Wanting to improve, initiates in. Looking good so far up the to outer zone 2 and down to that inside clip. Holding a nice line so far, filling outer zone 3 and 4. But not grabbing all of 5, driving off a little too early. And now really upsetting him for 6 and 7. And maybe the final outer zone. That was 2 tires off for almost 3 outer zones there. But he makes it work and salvages the points.
Yeah, it really was sort of a chain reaction there. Coming up shallow for that outside zone, really picking up a lot of speed. And then that throws him off really for the rest of the run. Another nice score on the board, but he'll hang on to that 89. Ryan Literal at the line ready to go, waiting on the lights. They are on. Good initiation from Ryan Literal, really swinging that car into outside zone 1, up to outside zone 2 as well. Nice and smooth from Ryan. Trying to better the 89.7. He's on track to do so, I think. Nice and smooth on his transition there as well through that power rally section. Last and final one, he goes a little bit far, but keeps it going.
Ryan Literal there, almost throwing it all away, but managing to get back on throttle, keep that grip in the car, and pulls out a 91 over his 89.7 from his first run of qualifying. Brandon Gardner sitting on that 92.7. Goes for the second run of qualifying, initiates in through outer zone 1. Fills it completely, fills all of outer zone 2. Nicks that inside clip as he comes down. It fulfills all of outer zone 3 and 4. Trying to improve, maybe get a good tiebreaker score. Sends it into that final outer zone, drops a little bit of tire as he gets into the outer zone, but finishes out the run beautifully.
Yeah, another strong run from Brandon Gardner. Will it be enough to beat the 92.7? No, it's going to fall short. 89 on the board for Brandon Gardner. Here's a Tikan Pileski, though, for his second run of the day. 94.3 is what he's currently sitting on. Nice and smooth on his initiation up to that outside zone too. Work it down to inside clip. Could have been just a little bit tighter there, but smooth nonetheless from Tikan. He continues on filling that next outside zone. Good transition as we see CSP freak out about the grass a little bit. And across that finish line, Tikan Pileski is back.
Wow. And so close. 94.3 for Tikan Pileski's second run. Matching his 94.3 for his first run. Exactly. Extremely calculated. As Ethan Minima on the 90.3 goes for the second run of qualifying. Ethan pushes all the way out to that track edge for outer zone 2. Drops down. Grabs that inside clip nicely. Through the power alley section, dropping some tire through outer zone 4, grabs 5 and 6 here, fixes his mistake very quickly. One last outer zone to go for Ethan Minima. And it's fast and furious for Ethan.
Yeah, trying to better that 90.3 and really going after it there for that run, but does fall just a little short. 89.3. 1 point shallow. And here's Reese Tatterson trying to better his 89.3. Can he do so here in run 2? Working out to outside zone 2. All the way out there to that track edge, down for the inside clip. Getting that big bumper around that cone. Nicely done for that outside zone. Good transition. Dialed in on the line here. Last and final zone. Does drive off of it just a little bit, right smack dab in the middle of that last and final outside zone, but solid run nonetheless from Reese Tatterson.
A solid run indeed, a 94.3. I couldn't imagine what that run would have been if he would have just kept it right on that track edge through that last outer zone, but a great job from Reese Tatterson. As we now have our final driver here of Group 5, which means there's one group left to qualifying. Cameron Mustard sitting on that 92.7 in that R32, drives all the way out to outer zone 2, dives down for that inside clip, keeps on throttle to fill all of outer zone 3, makes the transition work for outer zone 4 and 5. Transitions now to outer zone 6, putting it on the track edge 4, 6, and 7. One last transition, goes off just a little bit, drives back online, and drives off that track edge just a tad before finishing out the run.
Yeah, another solid run, though, from Cameron Mustard. 90.7 on the board, so falling shy of the 92.7, but a strong score to hang on to, that 92.7. So that's going to do it for Group 5. Just one more small group of qualifying coming up here at Pascani MotorPark. It's been a fun one so far. Artem Chokov still hanging on to that number 1 position with his 95.3 on the board. Darius Ostreka with his 95.3. Zach O'Sullivan with his even 95. And Mustafa 95 on the board as well. Alexander Element with his 94.7. Tikan Pileski with a 94.3. Reese Tatterson and Robert Kaczynski to round out the top 8. If we jump back to the back there, we see Ethan Minima hanging on to that 28th position. Again, top 28 get locked into that top 32, and 29 through 44 move on to the last 16 battles where they'll battle it out amongst each other to lock in those last 4 positions in the top 32. All right, last call from those judges being called. Gawain Ebanks to the line, ready to go for his first round of qualifying here, round 3. Returning back in that R35 GTR and looking good in it. Let's see. Through that chicane. And initiating in, real snappy from Gawain. He works up to outside zone 2. Down across that inside clip. Really moving through the course here. Filling that next outside zone. Dialed in as Gawain Ebanks through run 1. Could have been just a little deeper there as he settled in, but he makes it out to that edge. And a solid run from Gawain.
A very solid run indeed. Great way to start things off here for our final group of qualifying. A 91.7 for Gawain Ebanks. Really kind of showing, hey, Group 6. Time to lay it all out on the line. Brandon Williams leaving the start gate. Initiates in, looks good off the initiation. He drives it up towards outer zone 2. Doesn't fill all of outer zone 2. Left a little bit of room on the table. So he comes through that inside clip out to outer zone 3, then 4. Grabbing that rumble strip off that inside clip. The judges didn't want to see that. Not filling all of 5. Trying to make up for it for 6, 7. Now into that final outer zone. Carrying a lot of speed into that final outer zone. Really just kind of depending on the car to get around it and finishing out the run.
And an 81.7 on the board for Brandon Williams. Gage Salinas through the chicane. He goes for his first run of the day. And initiating in, and a big correction off initiation as well. But he continues on, fills outside zone 2, working down to that inside clip, grabs that third hash, and filling that next outside zone. Nice and snappy and flying through the course is Gaius. Big angle there. Last and final zone. Picking up throttle. And he's going to drive out of that zone, unfortunately, for that last and final turn.
Yeah, Cage is there with a couple errors that he needs to fix for the second run there. But, I mean, what a show. Just threw it around. Just let's go for it. Let's see what we can do. Danelius out for the first run of qualifying. Initiates in and looks good up to outer zone 2 and probably as close to that track edge as you can get there as he drives that inside clip and out to outer zone 3. Good job through outer zone 4 and 5. Now the transition for 6 to get that drive into 7. Holding it together nicely is Danelius. Long e-brake pull into that final outer zone to settle the car. Gets on throttle, makes his way out to the track edge and finishes out the run.
Yeah, Parangauskas. Let's wait and see what that score is going to be on the board. And it's going to be a big one, 92.7 for Danielis. We work our way around to Artem Makushenko. Returning back in that Audi and initiating in. Working out to that outside zone 2 down to the inside clip. On a really good line here in the Audi. Really hanging on to it through the power alley section of the course, all the way out to the edge, drives off of it just a little bit across that finish line. Strong run from Artem.
Yeah, Artem really putting it out there and getting up into the 90s as well, matching Kawane Ebank's score of that 91.7. As next up is Steven Hatcher in the S2000, initiates in, pushes out to outer zone 2, gets right to that track edge. Could have been a bit tighter around that inside clip, but makes it work for outer zone 3, dropping tires on the outside of outer zone 3, but makes the transition happen to outer zone 4. Didn't fill all of 5, but fills all of 6 and 7. One last transition go, a bobble coming into that final outer zone. Holds it together though, gets those points on the board, is Steven Hatcher.
Yeah, not too bad of a run from Steven Hatcher. Always fun to see him back in the S2000. 88.7 on the board for his first run. Kazuki Fukushi, our last and final driver here in qualifying. This is his first run. And initiating in. It's going to come up a little bit shallow for outside zone 2, but continuing on, a little wavery there through that inside clip. He tries to get that car around it, grabbing some of that inside rumble as well. So we see more grass confetti in the air from CSP through that section of the course, and there he goes across that finish line.
Yeah, Kazuki Fukushi there making quite a few mistakes, but nothing he can't fix for the second run. A 79.7 for Kazuki Fukushi. As we wait for Kawane Ebanks to get to the line in that R35, sitting on a 91.7. Wayne gets some heat into those tires, pulls up to the line. This is our final runs of qualifying here for round 3. Wayne sends it in. Looking good off the initiation through outer zone 1 and outer zone 2. Nice and tight to that inside clip, which is all the way out for outer zone 3. Makes the transition happen for outer zone 4. Holds on to that angle through outer zone 5 and 6. He is just moving through this course and looking good doing it. Kawane Ebanks.
Whoa! Sends it in after finishing his run. 93.3 on the board for Kawane. Here's Brandon Williams back at the line trying to better his 81.7. Might want to do so to make it into battles today. Big initiation from Brandon. Can he make it out to outside zone 2? No, he falls short again here in run 2. Picking up that third hash, coming up a little shallow on outside zone 3. Gets 4 pretty good, and 5 as well. Last and final zone here coming up. Picking up throttle on time. And across that finish line. So probably better than the 81.7 as we have more confetti grass falling from the sky.
Well, better than the 81.7, indeed, an 87.3, and we all know that every point matters here. Sitting on a 77 is this man, Keija Solunas, who just absolutely threw this BMW around on his last run of qualifying. We'll see what he can do this time. Good run through outer zone 2, and good job through that inside clip as well, making up all of outer zone 3. Driving 4, almost over rotating a bit, having to dance it back out to outer zone 5 to make sure he grabs it all, dropping a tire through outer zone 6 and 7, dropping tire into the final outer zone as well, but holding it all together and putting on a little show is Cages.
Yeah, another really scrappy run from Chaos. Trying to rein in that car. 81.3, so does better the 77 on the board. We'll have to wait and see if that's enough to put him in maybe the last 16. As here's Danielis Herangauskis for his second run, currently sitting on that 92.7 you see at the bottom of your screen, working up to outside zone 2. And doing a good job here through turn 1. Nicely done on that next outside zone. all the way out to that track edge, doing what he needs to do here in run 2 to better that 92.7. He does drive off that zone just a tiny bit. Again, really tough zone to get every single last bit out of it, but a good run nonetheless.
Yeah, very good run there indeed from Danelius, and just improving his score by 0.3 points and ends up with a 93 for this qualifying session as we move to Artem sitting on a 91.7, initiates in. Good initiation as he pushes all the way out to outer zone 2. Looking good this time around, a little wide around that inside clip, but not too shabby as he comes through the power alley section here, making the transitions work, putting the car on the track edge. One more transition, one more outer zone. Right on that yellow line, throws some angle at it the last second though, and drives off that yellow line just a little bit before finishing out that run.
Yeah, nicely done, but falling just a little bit short. 91.7 on the board for his top score, but an 89.7 for run 2. Here is Steven Hatcher for his second run. Big initiation from that S2000, working out to outside zone 2. Could have been a little bit deeper there. Nicely done for the inside clip though, hanging on to that angle nice and smooth from Steven here as he picks up some speed for the power alley section. Over the little hump and across that finish line. Steven Hatcher, nicely done for run 2.
Yeah, if there's anyone who can throw a Hail Mary run, that'll be Steven Hatcher, and he did just that. 93.3 on the board as we come down to our final run of qualifying here for round 3 at the Virtual Drift Championship at the Pascani MotorPark. Again, huge thank you to 00 for allowing us to use it. Initiating in is Kazuki Fukushi, sitting on that 79.7, dropping a little bit of tire out of outer zone 2, but gets around the inside clip now through the power alley section, through outer zone 3 and 4, gets through 5, looking a lot more confident here on run number 2 is Kazuki. Into that final outer zone on the track edge and finishing it out here for us.
Yeah, needing to better that 79.7 that he currently has on the board, and I think he might just do that. He does a 90.7, huge improvement on his score. But that's going to do it for the regular bit of qualifying here for round 3. Pascani points are on the board. Artem Cholkov hanging on to that first position there with that 95.3 on the board for him. Darius Ostreka with his 95.3 and Zach O'Sullivan with his 95. Strong scores all the way down to your top 8. Robert Kivsinski rounding out our top 8 drivers. Quaden Ebanks with his 93.3, and working down to Brandon Gardner to round out the top 16 drivers. And Ethan Pikachu hanging on to 17th with his 92.7, and down to Oliver Effinger to round out the top 24 with his 91.7 on the board. A lot of really close scores here through that top 24. There it is, Stanislav, 25th position with his 91.3, and Riley Sobush hanging on to 28th. We'll see him in the top 32, but William Holloway will start things off there for the list of those drivers that will be put into that last 16. Let's see if we can scroll through here. I don't think it's gonna let me interact with it. And there we go. We'll scroll on down through these scores. There There we see Ethan Minima in that 33rd position, that 90.3 on the board, and scroll down to our 44th position, 88.3 from Abdulaziz Al-Harbi. And Anton Kozlov will unfortunately be that cutoff in 88, so needed to have a higher score of an 88 to make it on into those last 16 battles that are coming right up. We're gonna take a small little break, get the server situated for our last 16 battles, and we'll be right back with more qualifying. All right, welcome back everyone. We're back with some more qualifying, but in a little bit different format than maybe you are used to. Let's pull up our last 16 qualifying battles bracket. So again, our 29th through 44th drivers get put in and slotted into this last 16 qualifying battles bracket, and the top 4 drivers you see in the middle of your screen will be slotted into the top 32 based on their original qualifying scores. So William Holloway and Abdulaziz Al Harbi will kick things off for us. Masashi Yoshida and Erikas Yerkas, Joan Victor De Paula Silva, Alexander Yegard, Ethan Minima, and Eduardo Alves. That whole left side of the bracket we will start with first. And again, our top 28 drivers already slotted in to that top 32. So we'll have to wait and see those later for our main event. But before we do that, again, these last 16 qualifying battles. If you're just now joining us, we'll bring up that line map one more time as well. You see the start of the course at the top of the screen there. And a very small decel zone to start things off to protect that lead driver from getting yeeted into from that chase driver, and then on throttle really for the rest of the course. Small off throttle portion of the course there just before clip 8 is allowed. Little off throttle clutch kick, and then into clip 10, your real only decel zone on the course. And we've got drivers ready at the line, ready to go. William Holloway and Abdulaziz Al Harbi.
That is right. William Holloway will be in the lead lane there, so he'll have to make his way around those cones. And then in the chase position is Abdulaziz Al Harbi in that GT86. Again, this is our last 16 battles, so these drivers duking it out to make it into the main competition later today as the light goes blue and off they go for the first of the last 16 battles. Initiating in is Holloway right on the door, though, leaving a bit of gap at the initiation, but now closing that proximity was Abdulaziz Al Harbi, getting a little bit left behind there through outer zone 3, but really surging up through outer zone 4 and 5. Trying to keep that proximity as they come through 6 and 7 now, but William Holloway trying to keep a good distance as he almost goes off track, but holds it together. That gives Abdul the chance to get back up on the door.
Wow, good way to start out the last 16 battles as we'll take another look here. William Holloway out front initiating in, and look at that angle that he sets to quickly. Abdulaziz having to get back into the fight there before outside zone 2, working around that inside clip. Nice transition from William Holloway, doing a really good job out front in that RX-7. As you see Al Harbi getting out of the mix again there in that chase position as they work into this last and final outside zone. William could have been maybe a little bit deeper, but nice and smooth across that finish line.
Well, at the start gate, back around and ready to do battle once more. Abdulaziz Al Harbi now in that lead position. William Holloway ready to chase him down. The lights go on and off they go through the start gate clean. Getting on throttle real early as Abdulaziz initiating in. Almost not leaving enough room was William Holloway. He has to take the way down low line as Abdulaziz manages to get through outer zone 1 and 2. William Holloway now making up for his mistake, getting back on the door through the power alley section towards outer zone 5 they come. Abdulaziz doing a good job out front here as they come through outer zone 7, now into that final outer zone. Abdulaziz not as deep as he could be, slowly pushing out to that outer edge, and William Holloway kind of having to play catch up in that last corner.
Yeah, let's take another look at it here. Again, this time Abdulaziz out front here in this last 16 battle between these two, and William getting really out of whack there through that initiation, maybe even making a little bit of contact there on Abdulaziz before they even initiated, really on the inside. And Abdulaziz goes maybe a little bit too wide, but after that they continue on really nicely. William gets back into the fight, back there in that chase position. And Abdulaziz could have been a little bit deeper there to start that last and final outside zone, but A good battle between those two, and we go to the judges for the first time today. Here in round 3, William Holloway on the left, Abdulaziz Al-Harbi on the right. Winner moves on into the last 8, and it's going to be William Holloway moving on into the last 8.
Well, a good job indeed there from William Holloway to move on to the next round as we have our next battle at the line ready to go. Masashi Yoshida in the BMW wagon in the lead position up against Erikas Yurkas. The lights go out and off they go for this last 16 battle. Initiating in is Masashi, but a good job there from Erikas. Ooh, maybe getting a little out of shape as they come into outer zone 2 from that chase driver. And oh, big out of shape. Off course goes Erikas. He was having some issues coming into outer zone 2 and then just flies off circuit as he's trying to head to that inside clip. Now it's up to Masashi. He's got to finish out this run to make sure that he doesn't get an incomplete, and Masashi does just that.
Wow, what an odd one there in this last 16 battle. Let's take another look at it here. Masashi out front, good initiation. Working out the outside zone too. Here they come down to the inside clip, and yeah, I mean, it was almost like Erikas ran out of fuel or something. The car just shut down, turned right, and off the course he went. Masashi continues on a pretty good lead run here, all by him lonesome. Picking up throttle on time for the last and final outside zone and across that finish line, but we still have another half of the battle.
We sure do, and yeah, definitely very weird to see from Erikas there. Again, like you said, it looks like that car just shut down, but back around at the start gate, ready to go. Erikas Yurkas now in that lead position. Masashi ready to chase him down. Lighting up those tires. Initiating in is Erikas. Masashi Yoshida a little further behind off the initiation, starting to close up now after outer zone 2, getting on that door through that inside clip as they come through outer zone 3. Erikas doing a good job in the lead here, putting the car right out to track edge as they come through outer zone 6 and through 7 now. One last transition into that final outer zone. Too deep goes Erikas. Almost had to put opposite lock into the car as they finish out that run.
Yeah, a good effort from Erikas as we take another look here on this replay with him out front. Masashi chasing him down in that estate. They initiate nicely here. Erikas working it up to that outside zone 2. They work down to the inside clip. A little wide there. Could have been a little bit tighter, but picking up these outside zones nicely. But as we see, Masashi still in the fight in that chase position, looking for the win here. And there we see Erikas go a little bit deep, but picking up throttle, sticking with it, and finishing the run. Here we go to our judges for the second time today. Masashi on the left, Erikas on the right. Winner moves on into that last 8 to work towards a chance to make it into the top 32. And there's Masashi Yoshida getting the unanimous victory over Erikas Yurkas. An unfortunate one to see Erikas just shut the run down and get a loss in that manner. But we're moving on.
We sure are, with Joao Victor de Paula Silva in that lead position in the S14. Then in the S13 beside him, Alexander Jagard. The lights go off in this next last 16 battle underway. Initiating in is Joao. Looking good out front. Alexander trying to catch back up to that door as they come through outer zone 2. Now on the door through that inside clip. Backs off a little bit as they come through outer zone 3 to leave room for that transition. Back on the door is Alexander Jagard. But Joao out front doing a very good job here. One last transition to go. Gets it on. Oh, big bump there. Not sure if that was just from both of them hitting the bump at the same time or if there was some contact there. I'll leave you to decide that in the replay.
Yeah, let's take another look at it. It does sometimes get a little rowdy in that section of the course over that big drop off. Joao doing a good job in that lead position, staying smooth through turn 1. Alexander falling back a little bit, but then right back onto the bumper through that first transition, hanging with him through the power alley section of the course. Joao doing a good job out front in that lead, picks up throttle on time, and there they go off the little drop off. Yeah, it doesn't seem like any contact, seem to stay clean and smooth, and they're back at the line ready to go for the second half of their battle.
Well, good to know there was no contact, just both of them hitting the bump at the exact same time. At the start gate, flipped around and ready to go again. Alexander Jaeger now in that lead lane with Joao da Silva ready to chase him down. Initiating in is Alexander. Nice and close off that initiation is Joao, though, right along the door through outer zone 1 and 2. As you can see, Alexander kind of fighting the car through that inside clip as they come through the power alley section, leaving the room there for the transition. Dropping a tire was the lead off of outside zone 5. They come through to the final transition, still dropping tires as that lead over, rotating off the bump and into the wall goes Alexander Jaeger in that lead position.
Yeah, an unfortunate one to see there from Alexander Jaeger. Let's take another look at it here on the replay. Good initiation, but pulls out of the angle a little bit is Alexander out front. And look at the pressure being applied from Joan in that chase position. Does back off quite a bit there after that inside clip. Sacrificing a little bit of line there, but we see Alexander go too wide for that outside zone. Gets back on the right line here. Nicely done. But as we see there, just a little bit too much angle over the drop off. And when he lands, that car was not happy about it at all, and we'll go to those judges. Joan on the left, Alexander on the right. Winner again moves on into the last 8. Here go the judges, and it's going to be Joan Victor de Paula Silva getting the win and moving on into the last 8. Exciting battle between those two.
A very exciting battle indeed, and the way these battles have been so far, the aggression from each of the drivers just trying to do everything they can to make it into the top 32 battles is absolutely wild, and a good taste for what's going to come later on this afternoon. Ethan Minima now in that lead position up against Eduardo Alves. Ethan almost taking out that pylon off the start, but he makes it work, initiating in. There is Eduardo Alves right along the door through outer zone 2 as they drop down to that inside clip, leaving a bit of room now for outer zone 3 and that transition. Eduardo may be backing off too much, surges up during outer zone 5 and gets back up on the door through outer zone 6 and 7. They transition in that final outer zone. A little deeper is Eduardo, but sticking to the door of Ethan Minima the whole way around.
Yeah, good start here in the last 16. Ethan Minima out front. Eduardo Alves giving chase. Take another look at it here on the replay. Good initiation. And Alves sticking with him all the way up into that outside zone 2. Falling back a little bit there in that section of the course through that inside clip. But Ethan lacking a little bit of angle through that inside clip as well. The first one doing a good job on the second one though, and throughout the remainder of the course picking up throttle on time, filling that zone, and look at Alves right there in that chase position, hanging with it.
Well, back around at the start gate they are. Eduardo Alves now has the chance to lead. Ethan Minima ready to chase him down. The second half of this last 16 battle, and the last for this half of the bracket, is underway. Initiating in is Eduardo. Ethan Minima initiates with him. Almost on the door, definitely on the door as they come up through outer zone 2. Dropping a little tire was the lead of Eduardo as they come through outer zone 3. Not leaving any breathing room is Ethan Minima off that transition as they come through outer zone 5 and now into outer zone 6 and 7. Ethan really putting on the pressure in that chase position as they come over that bump and finish out the run.
Yeah, good second half of this battle as well. Let's take another look at it. Alves out front this time in that S chassis, being chased down by Ethan's S chassis, and they work up to outside zone 2. We see Alves go a little bit deep there for outside zone 2. Could have been tighter to the inside clip. On a good line here, utilizing that left foot brake there after that first transition. Nice and snappy for the next one though, but Ethan hanging with Alves very nicely throughout this run. And there they go across the finish line. A tough one to maybe call from these judges. Ethan on the left, Eduardo on the right. Winner moves on into the last 8 to work towards their chance of making it into the top 32, and it's going to be Ethan Minima moving on. That's going to do it for the left-hand side of the last 16 qualifying battles. William Holloway and Masashi Yoshida moving on. Juan Victor De Paula Silva and Ethan Minima will all face off against each other in that last 8 battles. But before that, Olivier and Christian Petrov, Luciano Canero, Dimitri Mitten, Kazuki Fukushi, Daniel Mora, Kevin Stump, and Roman Kondrasenka all coming up next, that right-hand side of the bracket of the last 16 qualifying battles. Yeah, so getting some information there from the judges, it seems as though Christian Petrov is not going to make it for his run. So Olivier is going to get a bye run here in the last 16. Watch him take his bye run.
We sure will. Down the straight comes the Canadian Olivier, initiating in. And looking good through outer zone 2. Down into inside clip, out to outer zone 3, dropping a little bit of tire. It's a bye run, Olivier. Don't mess it up. They come through outer zone 7. One last transition. One last outer zone to go. Olivier moves on to the next set of battles. So now up at the line, the second set of battles here for the last 16. Luciano Canero in the Corvette in the lead lane. Then in the Audi is Dimitri Mitten. The light goes on and off they go. Luciano out front, Dimitri Mitten giving chase. They initiate in. Good initiation there from both drivers. Dimitri right on the door of Luciano as they come through outer zone 2 down into that inside clip, leaving just enough room for the transition. Dropping a bit of tire was the chase, though. Not as much angle through outer zone 5 from the chase as they come through outer zone 7 now, and now into that final outer zone. Nicely done from the lead. A little bobble there from that chase position over that bump.
Yeah, Luciano really smooth out front. Let's take another look here on the replay. Initiating in just barely on time is that Corvette of Luciano out front. And Dimitri doing a really good job to apply some pressure through turn 1, staying with him all the way through it, right along that bumper through that first transition. Luciano again doing a really good job filling these zones, being on a really good line. Nice and smooth from the Corvette as well. Dimitri down off a little bump there, and quite a bit on the inside of that last and final outside zone.
Well, Dimitri will get his chance now for the lead. With Luciano ready to chase him down, Luciano's got to put on the pressure here, initiating along the bumper as they come through outer zone 1. Luciano pushing up to the door of Dimitri Mitten as they come down to that inside clip, leaving the room now for the transition to outer zone 4. Luciano must have heard me as he's on the attack there, but a good drive here from Dimitri Mitten out front in that lead as they make the final transition. And contact from Luciano in that chase position. And we'll see what the judges decide about that.
Yeah, let's take another look at it here with Dimitri out front. Luciano giving chase. Nice initiation from Dimitri, really snapping the angle, but he does end up a little bit shallow of outside zone 2 and a bit on the outside for a little too long for turn 1, but does manage to get that inside clip. Nicely done on that first transition. Luciano still hanging on in the fight there behind the big BMW. Last and final transition, and there, yeah, Luciano just coming in maybe a little bit too hot, but we'll leave it up to the judges. Luciano on the left, Dimitri Mitten on the right. It seemed as though Dimitri picked up throttle on time, but it's going to be a tough one for those judges indeed.
Yeah, overall, kind of a shaky battle between both the leads and the chase runs. So who knows? Maybe we'll even see our first one more time.
Judges taking their time with this one. Definitely could be as though, like, even though Dimitri, it seems as though he picks up throttle possibly on time, that doesn't automatically deem that, you know, he's not at fault if the judges find that he dropped too much speed through that decel zone. Because just because there's a decel zone doesn't, of course, mean that you can just park the car and drop too much speed for any given zone, decel zone, however you see it. Or did Luciano just come in too hot? Ooh, and look at there, Luciano's gonna get the win over Dimitri Mitten, coming down to the contact. And my assumption would be that judges saw that Dimitri dropped too much speed. It's all over here.
Well, overall, a good job there from Luciano, even with the small mistake of Dimitri Mitten. He'll go on to see Olivier in the last 16 battles, or last 8, I guess it would be. Next up to battle is Kazuki Fukushi and Daniel Mora. Kazuki in that Toyota GR, beautiful GR Corolla in the lead lane, up against Daniel Mora in that E30 in the chase position. The lights go on and this battle is underway. Kazuki out front, Daniel chasing him down. Kazuki initiates in. Daniel right there with him as they come through outer zone 1. Little bobble there from the lead as he tried to reach out all the way to outer zone 2. They make their way through the inside clip now and through outer zone 4. Daniel Mora trying to put on that pressure as they come through outer zone 5. Very close to the bumper there. On the transition from Daniel Mora, but losing out a lot. Was Daniel Mora through that final outer zone. I know Kazuki was a little shaky through there, but Daniel just seemed to go right offline and shut it down.
Yeah, let's take another look at it here. Kazuki entering in nicely. Daniel right there with him, and Kazuki, as we saw in qualifying as well, the regular qualifying runs, he was falling a little bit shallow of outside zone 2, and he did so there as well, continuing on, grabbing that rumble strip as well, so a little bit too far on the inside clip 2. And here's that last and final transition. And really kind of all over the place, but we see Daniel Mora back there in that chase position really kind of shut the car down. So a very interesting first half of this last 16 battle.
Very interesting one indeed. So now back at the start gate, flipped around, we will have Daniel Mora in that lead lane with Kazuki Fukushi chasing him down. Initiating in is Daniel Mora. Looking good off the initiation. Kazuki trying to apply that pressure. High up into outer zone 2 goes Daniel Mora. Kazuki still behind him. Almost looks like he's struggling, fighting with that car, trying to keep it at angle there as we see them come through outer zone 5 now. Daniel putting down a good lead run, but behind Kazuki just looks shaky. And a little contact as I say that as they come into that final outer zone before crossing the line.
Let's take another look here. Daniel out front this time. Good initiation from him, nice and smooth. All the way up there to that track edge in that BMW. Down across the inside clip. Still a lot of left foot brake from Daniel Mora out front. So we see Kazuki back there, unable to keep the car smooth. Does a good job there through that second transition of the course, and then really behind on that next one as they continue on and across that finish line. So another maybe tough one to call from these judges here between those two. Both runs a little shaky by both of those drivers. Here we go with the decision, and Kazuki Fukushi is going to get the win, move on into the last 8 against Daniel Mora. So honestly, really, I think coming down to the first half of the battle where we saw Daniel Mora really get out of shape and quite literally shut the car down and quit drifting.
Yeah, I believe so as well. That's the only thing that can really make sense of that whole battle. I mean, I hope Kazuki gets whatever issues he's undergoing as well sorted, as he will need to do that for the last 8 here, because the car just seemed like he was fighting it the whole way. Maybe a tune didn't load, but hopefully he gets it sorted for the last 8.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like, unfortunately, we're going to have another buy run. Rahman not making it to his last 16 battle as well. So Kevin Stump taking his buy run.
Yeah, Kevin Stump to go up against Kazuki Fukushi in that last 8 now. He gets one nice good practice run in that NOS Energy Drink Z. Gorgeous car that thing is.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if maybe these drivers are forgetting that there's last 16 battles and they don't make it to top 32, so they just dip out and leave. I don't know.
It is a possibility.
It is possible. All right, let's take a look at our last 16 bracket here. William Holloway and Masashi Yoshida up next. Juan Victor and Ethan Minima. Olivier and Luciano. Kazuki and Kevin Stump all coming up next for our last 8 battles to round out that last 16 qualifying. Again, top 4 move on into the top 32, and based on their original qualifying scores or their original seed. Well, now at the line and ready to go is our last 8 battle.
Now we've gone from the last 16 down to the last 8, and then we'll have our 4 that'll move on to competition. William Holloway in the lead position in that FD RX-7 up against Masashi Yoshida in the Wagon BMW. Initiating in, looking good off the initiation, lots of angle, but trying to get up on the door is Masashi Yoshida. Maybe some contact there coming down towards that inside clip. Yoshida almost kind of having to back out of it and take out some angle, and still not really matching that angle, having some problems keeping that car sideways. Maybe it's a leg issue between our 2 Japanese drivers here, as you see that surge and a definite hit there onto our lead driver.
Yeah, let's take a look back at it. William Holloway out front, initiating in nicely. And Masashi applying that pressure in that chase position as they continue on. And maybe a small little tap there through turn 1 before that inside clip. So we see William just get a ton of angle out of nowhere. And Masashi looking to struggle back there in that chase position. A lot of waivers, trying to keep that car in drift. And there they go, across that finish line.
Well, back around at the start gate, ready for the second half of their battle. Masashi Yoshida in the lead lane now, being chased down by William Holloway. Initiating in, and Masashi out to a huge lead off the initiation. Having to play catch up there is the chase of William Holloway. Through outer zone 3 and 4 they go. Now William really starting to apply that pressure, but didn't leave enough room for the transition was William Holloway, and that shoved Masashi Yoshida right off course. Oh no.
Yeah, an unfortunate one there. We'll take another look at it here on the replay. It all kind of starts from the initiation. We see there William maybe even giving Masashi a bump before initiation. We see Masashi kind of surge forward and then initiate just a little bit late. And as they work through the course, William is trying to make up ground. He does so, but then, as you pointed out, doesn't leave enough room for that transition. Masashi, I don't know how he got it back together and back on the course and into that last and final outside zone, but he did do so indeed. And we will go to our judges. William Holloway on the left, Masashi Yoshida on the right. Deliberating over everything that went on in this battle. Able to go back and look at replays as well if need be. Duarte, if you're referring to the Daniel Mora battle, it's because he shut the car down and quit drifting before that lead driver went into the wall and then was able to continue his run anyway. And look at there, we have a one more time between the two. So Chris and Matt choosing one more time, Ed choosing Masashi Yoshida to take the win, but that will be enough to line him back up again for the second time.
Well, there it is. One more time battle in the last 16. And I bet you anything the words were, clean it up, boys. Let's have a better run. We know they're capable of it, so we'd like to see it happen. So now, for this one more time last 8 battle, William Holloway will be back in the lead in the FDRX7 with Masashi Yoshida in that chase position in the Wagon BMW. The lights go on, and this one more time battle is underway as they make their way down the straight, and initiating in right along the bumper was Masashi, dropping some tires off of outer zone 1 was our lead driver of William Holloway. Down through outer zone 2 and into that inside clip they come. Can't tell if that's some lag or if that is Masashi literally pushing William Holloway through the course, but it looks like it's just the dancing BMW as he cuts the course big time, trying to get back up to the door. William Holloway messes up the transition and has to push himself way late into the final outer zone to finish this run.
Yeah, it really might come down to the lack of speed that William has out front, as we see him initiate a little bit on that left foot brake there as well, working up to that outside zone with a ton of angle. There he is again on that left foot brake before the inside clip, and that next outside zone there we see him again get it on through that inside clip. Here comes that transition, nice and smooth, works out to that outside zone. Last and final one, we see he comes up short just without the proper amount of speed to really carry into that last and final zone, but we'll flip him around. Masashi will lead.
Masashi will lead indeed in the BMW through the start gate they get. William Holloway now chasing him down for the second half of this one more time. Last 8 battle initiating in maybe a little late was Masashi, but getting through outer zone 1. William Holloway able to stick to the door this time around as they come through that inside clip into outer zone 3. They make the transition clean to outer zone 4. Now through 5, leaving that room for the transition this time is William Holloway and staying nice and close to Masashi. Masashi slows the car down quite a bit, but doesn't shake William Holloway in that chase position, who finishes out on the door of Masashi Yoshida.
Yeah, here we go with the replay of the second half of the battle. Good initiation this time from Masashi as he picks up speed, working out to that outside zone 2. Is utilizing a little bit of left foot brake around that inside clip there to that next outside zone. Continuing on, seems to have some pretty good speed there with William in chase. Doing a good line in that chase position as well, but does get a little caught up there in that last and final transition. And there they go across that finish line. We go back to the judges between these two. Winner moves on into the top 32. And look at there, William Holloway, he's going to get the win over Masashi Yoshida and move on into the top 32. Oh, the left foot braking wasn't enough.
So William Holloway getting the first spot in the top 32. The next battle to decide who's going to move on into the top 32 battles is this one here. Joao Victor de Paula Silva in that lead lane in that S14. Then beside him in the S15 is Ethan Minima. The lights go on and off they go. Down the straight, we know Ethan knows how to put on the pressure from the chase lane. Initiating in already, putting on immense pressure is Ethan from that initiation through outer zone 1 and 2. Joao out front doing a good job here in that lead position though, transitioning to outer zone 5 and 6. And it's a great battle between these two. Ethan putting on the pressure, transitioning really early, making a little bit of contact, but holding it right on the door of Joao through that final outside zone.
Yeah, here we go with that replay, and all was well really until I think that last and final transition. We see Ethan get a little caught up in it, and Juan coming up shallow on outside zone 2, but really nicely done for inside clip 1. Look at that transition between those two, bumper to bumper. Ethan applying the pressure in that chase position, and here we go. See Ethan transition maybe a little bit too soon and have to really extend that car out for that last and final zone, but we'll flip them around. Ethan will now lead.
Ethan definitely will lead this battle in the lead lane in that S15. Joao ready to chase him down. The lights go on in the second half of this battle's underway to see who will move on to the top 32 battles. Initiating in is Ethan, putting on the pressure off the initiation though is Joao in that chase. Look at that, right on the door through that inside clip and outer zone 2. Coming through the power alley section now. Joao taking a bit more of that inside line, trying to keep that proximity to the door of Ethan. Ethan is flying through this course. They come into that final outer zone. And very good job by both these drivers and a very clean battle.
Yeah, here we go with that replay this time. Ethan out front leading Joan Victor de Paulo Silva through this course and doing a nice job doing so. Working out to that outside zone, fills it all the way to that track edge, down to the inside clip. Dropping just a little bit of tire on those two outside zones. Continuing on, and we see Joan a little out of line there in that chase position through inside clip 2. But diving in for the last and final outside zone. And we go back to our judges. Joan on the left, Ethan on the right. Again, winner moves on into the top 32. Like judges have a quick decision, and it is going to be Ethan Minima moving on into the top 32, and we'll see him in today's main event.
So Ethan Minima, qualifying 33rd, wouldn't have made it normally into today's event, but with the last 16, he is now in the main show. As we move over to the right-hand side of the bracket, we have Olivier qualifying 30th in that lead position up against Luciano Canero, who qualified 35th. So we have a restart happening there for that one. Luciano will be in that chase position. Olivier in the lead. They're going to try this one more time. The lights are going to come on. They're going to go blue, and off they go. Olivier out front. Luciano chasing him down. Initiating in. Looking good off the initiation. Luciano getting right up on that door through outer zone 2 as they come down towards that inside clip. Olivier doing a good job in this lead so far. Dropping a bit of tire was the chase position through outer zone 3. As they now are through outer zone 4 and 5 and 6, now through 7. Luciano giving them no room to breathe through the back half of this course. Almost riding the wall though was Olivier, falling off and dropping tire before the finish line.
Now let's take another look at the first half of this last 16 battle. Olivier entering in, doing a good job for turn 1 out to outside zone 2. Could have been a little bit tighter to inside clip, really opening the door for Luciano right on the bumper through that first transition and that second one as well. Luciano doing a really good job hanging with that S14 out front, and as you pointed out, dropping a little bit of tire in that last and final outside zone.
So back around at the start gate, Luciano now able to be in the lead with Olivier ready to chase him down. Initiating in is Luciano. Looking good off the initiation. Olivier leaving a little bit of room as they come through outer zone 2. It now really starting to put the pressure on through that inside clip. Down to outer zone 3. Dropping a bit of tire was Olivier that time through outer zone 3 as they come through outer zone 5 now. Right on the bumper for the transition was Olivier, making the final transition into that final outer zone. Olivier putting all sorts of pressure down onto Luciano.
Yeah, nicely done by these two drivers. We'll take another look at the second half this time. Luciano out front. Olivier giving chase. Good initiation. Olivier a little bit late on that initiation back in that chase position, but does a good job to apply that pressure through turn 1, falling off quite a bit there, but then making it right back onto the bumper of that Corvette out front. And again, through that second transition, right there with him, really applying the pressure there as well. Almost getting out of shape there into the last and final outside zone. There they go across that finish line. A really tight battle between these two. It could really go to either one of them, but we'll let those judges decide on who moves on into the top 32. Could we maybe have another one more time for the last 16 qualifying battles?
I mean, it's very possible. These two did put on quite a good show. They were both very close, only some minor mistakes, and both of them kind of made it on each of their respective runs with dropping that tire off of outer zone 3. A few other little things here and there. So it was a very hard-fought battle between these two. They both want to be in the competition today.
Well, guess what? It's a one more time. They're going to line them back up.
Well, we're excited. We love more one more times here. So, Olivier back in the lead with Luciano ready to chase him down for this one more time battle. The lights go on and off they go. This one more time battle is underway to see who will get into competition later today. Initiating in is Olivier with Luciano right there with him as they come through outer zone 2, making that dive, trying to get as close to the door as he can from the chase. Maybe even transitioning a little earlier to try and stay even closer to the door of Olivier as they come through outer zone 6, now through 7. One last transition, off course goes Olivier and into the wall. Gets a little touch from Luciano in that chase. He had to slow down a little too much, and that led Luciano to kind of make that contact, but it didn't upset the battle.
Yeah, let's take a second look at it here. Olivier entering in nicely all the way to that track edge out front. Luciano, again, applying that pressure. Olivier going wide for inside clip 1 right along that bumper through that first transition, hanging with that lead of Olivier out front. Olivier doing a good job in the lead until here. We see him drop a bit of tire, picking up throttle really late as well, and just going way too wide for that last and final outside zone.
Well, let's see what happens in the second half of this one more time battle and who will secure their spot in the top 32 later today. Down the straight they come, and initiating in is Luciano. Right with them though is Olivier. Nice and high up into outer zone 2 goes Luciano. Still on that door though is Olivier. They come through outer zone 3, both of them dropping tire. Olivier dropping more tire through outer zone 4, trying to keep up with the speed of Luciano and trying to stay on the door as they have one last transition left into the outer zone. Both of them through the bump. Olivier keeping it right there on the door through to the finish.
Yeah, that might just be enough there from Luciano out front. Really clean lead as we see him initiate in on this replay. Olivier doing a good job in that chase position as well. Really bringing the fight to him. Luciano being a little wide there, dropping just a little bit of tire. Good transition though. Start out that power alley section. Olivier still applying pressure in that chase. Here, the last and final transition, picking up throttle on time. Very nicely done out front in that Corvette and across that finish line. We'll go to our judges for these two. And winner moves on into the top 32. Olivier on the left, Luciano on the right. There go those judges off to the right. Luciano Canero gets the win, and we'll see him in today's main event.
Another driver who normally wouldn't have made it into the top 32, qualifying 35th, Luciano Canero, now moves on to our main event, and we come down to our final last 8 battle. We have Kazuki Fukushi in the GR Corolla in that lead position, up against Kevin Stump in that NOS Energy Drink Z. The lights go on, and the final battle's underway. Initiating in, Fukushi out front looking good. Kevin Stump falling behind just a little bit, but as they come through outer zone 2, he starts to regain that ground. A little bobble there from our chase driver, trying to keep up with Fukushi as they come through that second inside clip and into outer zone 5, and then 6 and 7. Now Kevin Stump starting to put the pressure on, starting to keep that proximity as they come through that final outer zone.
Yeah, a little bit of back and forth between these two as we take another look here. Kazuki out front, initiating in and working out to that outside zone with quite the bobbles there, trying to get that car. But we see Kevin almost fall all the way out of drift there before that inside clip. There we see a little bobble out front is Kazuki, and a late transition through that power rally section. It puts him quite a bit wide for that next outside zone, but gets it together for the last and final one, and there's Kevin Stump with him right across that finish line.
Back at the start gate and ready to go once more. Kevin Stump now in the lead. Kazuki Fukushi ready to chase him down. Initiating in, looks good for Kevin Stump. Kazuki trying to find that early proximity, trying to get right up on the door, maybe making too much contact though. Getting all bent out of shape, pushing the Z of Kevin Stump all over the place through outer zone 3, but not wavering Kevin Stump at all. Is another hit there from Kazuki as they come into that final outside zone, sends Kevin Stump right off course.
Yeah, let's really take a look at this second half of the battle. Kevin Stump out front, initiating in, doing a good job. Kazuki right there in chase, pulling out a little bit of angle to hang with him. Yeah, and as you pointed out, a little bit of contact there in turn 1. That's what leads to Kevin Stump really just fall into angle suddenly. They keep things going. Good transition there. Kazuki where he needs to be in that chase position. Last and final one, and yeah, just a small little bump right there on that back bumper of Kevin Stump, sending him wide for that last and final outside zone. We will go to our judges. They'll call who moves on into the top 32, our last and final battle here in the last 16. And there it is, unanimous decision. Kevin Stump will get the win over Kazuki Fukushi and move on into the top 32. There is our last 16 qualifying battles bracket and how it played out. William Holloway, Luciano Canero, Ethan Minima, and Kevin Stump will all move forward. So again, 3 of those drivers would have normally not made it into the top 32. They're making it into the top 32 today. William Holloway will keep his position in 29th. Ethan will be seed 30. Then Kevin Stump will be 31st seed, and Luciano rounding out the top 32. So those drivers don't need to battle it out. They'll get slotted right on into the top 32. But what a fun event here for our first fictional fantasy track of the Virtual Drift Championship. We've never done a fictional track before, but it's played out pretty good. We chose this one because, again, it was different from what we've already run this season. And wanted to switch things up, and it's doing a good job of doing so. Really requiring just all the commitment you could really think of, keeping those drivers on edge. And it really comes down to that commitment and timing throughout the course, as we just saw through those last 16 battles. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. We will shut this stream down, take a small break. Everybody, get some lunch, get some snacks, get a drink, and we'll be right back with a new main event live stream here on YouTube. So be sure to look out for that and tune in here in just a short little while. Big thanks to all of our sponsors, of course. Sim Magic, our official title sponsor of the Virtual Drift Championship. Extreme Sim Racing, joining the Virtual Drift Championship family, along with Grip Royal, Joko Design, that helps us out with all of these Trek objects you see. Just like that start gate, he's got a nice gum road that you can check out and buy some things off him, including that VDC tire model and texture that he custom made for us and did just such a good job with it. And Ali Yusuf for helping us out with most of our graphics. So again, tune in just a little while for our main event, our top 32, coming up shortly for round 3, Pascani MotorPark.